Hi, guys. Welcome to another episode of Across the Border series. This is the Grow Remote channel. If you're joining us for the very first time, where we talk about everything personal development. We share with you tips and tricks of how you can become better and how you can do better. And if you've been following this channel, you would know that for some weeks now, we've been talking about how you can strive, not just strive, how you can thrive in countries that are not your own country. We've talked about how you can thrive in Germany. We've talked about how you can thrive in Canada. In the UK. We've talked about how you can thrive in Norway last week. And today we're talking about how you can thrive in the US. Don't forget, it's important that you understand what is expected of you if you're looking to go to any location. And because of that, we're having this episode and this series rather for you to get practical stories from those who are already in these locations and are doing well in these locations and are perfect examples to let you know that you can actually win anywhere you find yourself. It's a rare privilege to be having Mr. Shola on the call today. Mr. Shola, thank you so much for joining this call. Thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for having me. It's really nice to be here. Hello, everybody. Nice to meet the tribe, and I'm really excited to be on this session today.
Thank you so much. Mr. Shola, I'm not sure you know, but I've been following you for like God knows how long now. If you still remember, you once had, I don't know if the platform is still existing, but there was this Telegram group you had called Moving Abroad. Did you remember?
Right. Of course, we still
I
have
was,
it. Yeah.
yes, I was one of your first people,
Wow, that's amazing.
one of the first people there. And that was because I really wanted to also do the whole relocating to the UK through masters until I decided to follow a man instead of masters, but I don't regret it.
I mean, man and master's. You're getting your master's degree now, too.
Exactly. So it's such a privilege to be having you. I've followed you, like I said, over the years, even on your social media, and I see what you're doing, especially with Vesti, and it is super, super amazing. If you're joining us for the first time, or you're seeing Mr. Shola for the first time, Mr. Shola is the CEO and co-founder of Vesti, an organization that helps people who are looking to relocate. Pretty much what we're talking about, they do it in reality and in the practical way. So, of course, just like every other session, I'm going to put his handle for you to know how to meet with him if you need to and have further conversation. So, thank you so much, Mr. Shola, for joining once again. We're going to dive right into the questions. And I like to always start my session by asking, there are many countries in the world. Why did you decide to relocate to US?
Well, yeah, I mean, as they say, how do they say it now? They always say something like, don't open that can of worms." Or if you let me be, if you ask me that question, that will be what this whole podcast is about. So obviously, you guys are aware that the largest economy in the world by GDP is the United States,
Mm,
about $23 trillion economy. All of the major brands all over the world, the biggest brands from Coca-Cola to Microsoft to Google to Meta to everything, like pretty much in every category, are from the United States. Like it's the land of
mm,
dreams. It's a country that is formed with the ideology that anybody can become anything, and it has supported everyone from like the co-founders of Google who are immigrants to the currency of Google is an immigrant, the currency of Microsoft who is an immigrant to
mm.
everybody, like from PepsiCo to Coca-Cola. Like you can hear the names. Their names are from
Yeah.
Ireland, from the United Kingdom, even like from everywhere all over the world. So the US is a cocktail of humans who are pursuing their dreams and opportunities. So in determining where to go, it just made sense for me to essentially go to the finance capital of the world, New York, to the
Yeah.
entertainment capital of the world. Maybe you call that Los Angeles, or
At least,
to
yeah.
every single thing. Like if you think about like every single best expression of human endeavor. Um, while there are several other countries all over the world who represent these things, the United States clearly stands out. From
Yeah.
NASA to SpaceX, Elon Musk to Tesla to all the brands you're most fascinated about. Many of them come from here. So in my own case for the United States, I asked myself if I wanted to leave my ideals, which country was going to give me the platform, enabling environment to be able to live my greatest ideals. Like I wanted to be an astronaut, let's say as a child. I didn't even know
Yeah.
space travel was going to become this commercial. Now we have the first
Mm,
Nigerian going to space and passing the Kármán
mm.
line, and I asked myself, I say, if I wanted to be an astronaut, which country would I go to? Because Nigeria doesn't even have a space program, at least at the time. So in the same way, for the work that I do as an entrepreneur, and I wanted to be backed by venture capitalists, I need to go to where the resources are, where the technology is cutting edge, and where I can become anything I want to be. So that's why I chose the United States.
Amazing. Thank you so much. So you know how sometimes you envisage a certain thing, a certain place to be a certain way, just like the things you've described now. Oh, US gives the opportunity that one is looking for. It gives you the resources and the infrastructure, so to say. Um, and then you then get to this place and realize that these things are projections. They are not real. I want you to tell me, when you got to the US, were there things that you felt you had probably envisaged too much, but in reality it's not so? Like, were there culture shocks for you in that regard, if you understand my question?
Sure, 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 sure. Well, the most important things that mattered to me were not even they were even underestimated. Like issues of
Interesting.
like access to finance, opportunities
Mm,
like, access to being whatever you want to be. Like, I couldn't even estimate properly how big those opportunities were. For example, it was when I got here that for the year 2023, I think all of the funding that was raised in Africa is not as much as the funding that was available in the state of Maryland alone, and there are
wow.
50 states in the United States. So
Mm,
I also found out, I think, in 2022, that in Q1 of 2022, all of the funding that was raised in Africa for venture was not up to all the funding that was raised in the Dallas Fort Worth area for
mm,
Q1 of 2022. So I think I even underestimated, because by the time I got here, now for the things that are not important, that are not as important to me, for example, Hollywood had sold a lot of things about how shiny and getting off the plane in Washington D.C. and driving from the airport.
yeah.
I'm like, are you serious? This is looking like this. Why is it push all over the place? I thought this was supposed to
Yeah.
be. So yeah, when it came to like some of those things, which are not for me, I don't think they're as important, because if you've gone to like the UAE or Qatar or Dubai, you know how shiny and new some of the infrastructure is. You can't compare it to like what the United States looks like, in the sense that the US is just built for sustainability. Many of those infrastructure in the US are not new; they've been built forever. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think those are the things that you might say, well, this is not exactly how I thought about it. Though. So this is America. I thought they said there were no NEPA poles or electrical poles, or there's electrical poles everywhere.
Yeah.
There are no
Mm,
potholes or debt roads or farm
mm,
to market routes. Actually, there are, all of
yeah.
those things. But in terms of like the key things, that I came for, value for life, healthcare, social security, access to finance, you know, just all of those things that are critical to my fundamental existence as a person and to achieve my
Mm,
potential. I think I actually underestimated them, because I found them even more available than I had thought. Like if somebody had asked me, okay, how quickly would you be able to succeed? How quickly would you be able to get a job? Even though I had faith, amongst other things, and resilience and all of that and skill sets, but I wouldn't have been so confident that someone would offer me the acquisition of my company for almost $1 million in the first six
wow.
months of arriving in America,
Mm,
and maybe even give me a consulting gig right away, and later on invest $100,000 into my business. I wouldn't have thought that I would quickly meet, and that's just one person.
yeah.
So it's very interesting, or that quickly I would be able to like register, a non-profit, and be able to do, my business, and eventually get into a global accelerator. I would not have thought about it that it was going to unfold in such a manner.
Amazing. I have two things to draw from what you've just said now. One will be linking this, what you've said to the last session that I had, where the speaker said you choose the country you go to based on what you intend to achieve, which
Correct.
means that not every country would suit you based on your dreams and aspirations. And because of what you said now, definitely, I mean, with your description of the US, it's a perfect place for you to be. However, there is this ideology that US is not the easiest country to go to. Could that be true? If it is true, why is that the case there?
Well, I actually hold the same philosophy with your previous speaker, in that I usually say, at least at Vesti, with what we do, that you have to go to a country based on like what your dreams are, what your philosophy is
Yeah.
about life. If you're looking for a place where there is so much social security, it's a socialist state you want to go to. There's a lot of countries in Europe that you don't need to be very ambitious to succeed there. The thing with
Mm.
America is that because it's meant for the winners, America is designed for the winners. America is designed for anybody who believes that they want to be, on top of the world.
Yeah.
Somehow it becomes too much of a burden for somebody who just wants to live life and let life go by. So America
Yeah.
becomes hard when there's nothing to dream about,
Mm.
when you don't think about taking the White House, you don't think about running for Congress, when you don't think about
Yeah.
building a $1 billion company, America becomes like too much for you. Because
Mm.
really, it's for me in my half a decade of staying here, going over 6 years now.
Mm.
I have seen that this place favors the dreamer. It favors the
Mm.
dreamer. It favors the highly ambitious. It's like a winner takes it all society.
Mm.
As yes, they try their best to be socialist. They're not. It's a capitalist country. That really
Yeah.
favors people that are trying to pursue their dreams heavily. So if you're like an entrepreneur, you will feel it. If you're somebody who wants to be at the top of your career, you're a career person, but you're all about winning and being at the top, top earner, top worker, top career professional. You want to be VP. That is really where this place is about. You want to rack up the certifications, rack up the trainings, move cities like 5 times in a year because you're looking to move to the next level. That's what this place is.
Yes.
If it's for someone who just wants to sit back and relax, not so much, it's too fast paced and you don't
Mm.
get paid for just relaxing.
Mm. Amazing. So, would you say that somehow the US is selective about the kind of people they want to come into their country, and maybe that makes it quite difficult for just anybody to come into the country?
Magdalene, I have a feeling you know the answers to these questions, and let me tell you the truth. This is the same
Okay.
across. This is the same across all the countries that Vesti helps people to move to. For example,
Yeah.
people need to realize that immigration organizations, or like the IRCC for Canada, or the USCIS for the US, or the Home Office for the UK, they actually have sensible people who design these policies, and they
Yeah.
design these policies to attract a type of people. So to answer your question, the answer is yes. The US is
Okay.
looking for a certain type of people. The US is looking
Okay.
for dreamers, entrepreneurs, people who add value to their economy, and so is the UK, and so is Canada. Their level of intensity and intentionality may be different, but even Japan is looking for a certain type of people. I'll give you one
Mm.
interesting truth that many people may just be hearing for the first time. When you're trying to get
Okay.
your green card, they ask you to do your medicals. When you do your
Okay.
medicals, they claim that somehow they might not use the medical to determine whether you get a green card. But I tell you for
Mm.
free that they're looking for able people. They're looking for people they can already tell what their medical history or even their
Yeah.
current state of health is. It's part of it,
Mm.
because they want this global workforce to come to America to contribute to how America moves on to the next level, how America
Mm.
becomes, highly competitive in education, in finance, in technology, in fashion, in arts and
Mm.
culture, in film, in oil and gas, in literally every part of human endeavor that
Mm.
matters. They've designed visa types that specifically speak to this criteria. Do you have
Yeah.
multiple degrees? Okay, come get the EB2NIW 10-year green card. So you bring
Yeah.
your multiple degree from your own country and become a resident in our own country, right? Are
Yeah.
you somebody who is exceptional? You've won awards, you're an athlete,
Mm.
you are a literary icon, or you are a publisher, and you have all this power. Bring it to America and come and get the O1 visa. You know,
Mm.
you have. Are you a religious leader who wants to expand their work to the US? Get the R1
Yeah.
visa. Are you an entertainer? You want to come and shoot a film and pay taxes and pay workers and hire crew here in America? Or get the entertainer's visa. So they've designed all of these visa types. Are you a distinguished researcher? Who can
Yeah.
make patent contributions to the United
Mm.
States and basically write papers here and invent stuff here. Oh, get the EB1B distinguished researcher visa or the EB2NIW visa. So they have designed all of these things, and truth is, these governments, including the US, have a type of
Yeah.
that they are looking for. And once you are that kind of person, your struggle has ended, literally.
Okay.
It is when
Interesting.
there is a mismatch. And when there is a mismatch, it's not the end of the world. Just that you have
Yeah.
to do a little too much. You have to do more. And sometimes maybe even take a switch in your journey just to be able to align with what they are actually looking for. Because guess what? They reward what they are looking for. They support what they are looking for. They don't
Mm.
have prejudice against what they are looking for because that's really like what takes their economy forward.
Interesting. Thank you so much. So I want to ask this question. For a lot of people, they think that you have to be in tech. I know I'm talking to a tech person, but I also believe that you have some ideas outside of tech that people can also delve in to succeed in the US. Because I have a couple of people in the US actually, and it feels like they are all trying to transition into tech because it's looking like the only way you can succeed in the US is tech. But I don't want to believe that is the case. So, would you want to share with us other ways, or other, should I say, career paths for those who are not looking to go into tech that can succeed easily in the US?
Well, thank you so much. So that is actually not true. Technology may be getting more popular and popular and popular, but I want to say
Yes.
categorically that first of all, if you're a professional, the US is for you. And what I mean by this is, if you're a lawyer, you are a medical doctor, you are a nurse, you're a chiropractor, you're a physiotherapist, you are a guidance counselor, you are a
How about HR?
financial advisor, you're an human resource manager. All of these professional fields, totally.
Yeah.
There are people who are making 1 million a year doing some of these fields. I know of doctors who are now into medical weight loss, who are now into nutrition management, and they're doing $1 million a year. And
Mm.
I know of a doctor who sold his practice for over $14 million. Like, so there, and these
Wow.
are no exceptions. Many of them are very
Mm.
quiet, very, very, quiet. And quiet is important when you are in a country where you're not from. You want to maintain a low
Mm.
profile, but they're making a lot of money. They are financial advisors, tax consultants, logistics and freight people,
Mm.
people who have hundreds of trucks, for freight and logistics. There are people in media and film that are doing very, very well. So it's not
Mm.
just technology. It's just that, when people are not so sure of what the path is and there's not enough role models within the field, people just go, okay, let's go do cybersecurity, let's go do data analysis. And those who succeed in it are the ones that decide to take it up as a career. Those who think they can just use it as touch and go, they're the ones who complain and say, oh, this cybersecurity is not working again.
Yeah.
I know of a mentor who basically started with network security, in the days of CCIA, CCNA, and took on all of this stuff. And then the world moved from networking to cloud, and he got his cloud
Yes.
certifications and all of that, and became a senior person going on with about 400K a year in two enterprises. And from there, he
Wow.
diversified into real estate. So I can tell you many, many, many more stories like that. I didn't mention real estate before. Real estate is another amazing stuff. Housing, interior decoration, fashion and
Mm.
design, cosmetology. If you are somebody who has a beauty business and you're like thinking about moving to America, if you get here and you start up a salon to make a killing, you're gonna make a lot of money. So it's
Mm.
really not about technology alone. It's about the spirit
Yeah.
of venture, the spirit of enterprise. Even if you are in a job as a career person, are you entrepreneurial within that job? That's what will
Yeah.
make you like aspire for more, get better. You know how many VPs I know in Bank of America, JP Morgan, Chase, all of that are Nigerians, and there is a lot of opportunity in consulting. That's why if
Mm.
you have an MBA from Nigeria or from one of the top schools here, you can get into consulting. McKinsey, Ernst and Young, JP Morgan, even like all the consulting firms like Bain. There's just all kinds, Accenture. There's a friend of mine, a senior friend of mine who did actuarial sciences, and joined Accenture, and it's top dog.
Wow.
So it's really about like knowing, having the opportunity and having the relationships and the mentorship and the network that is required to be able to get this done. KPMG is still hiring a lot of consultants.
Yeah.
And, if you now try to get yourself, regardless of what your field is, get yourself
Mm.
into like the basic knowledge of artificial intelligence, that even sets you apart further. So I'll have loved to say, as somebody with multiple degrees in computer science, I'll have loved to say that, oh, that's all that you can do, but that's not true. There's so much more.
Thank you so much. I think I really like that you're shedding light on this because for a lot of people, they just assume if you're not in tech, you can't succeed, especially in the US. But it's good you're saying this right now. And then you made mention of something I want you to throw a little light on because it can be misconstrued if someone does not understand what you mean. When you said, especially because you are in a country that isn't yours, it's okay to keep a low profile doesn't mean that the society is designed in a way that if you are putting yourself out there, and this is coming from the place of, everybody says, oh, whatever it is you're doing, put yourself
Yeah.
out there. So this is looking like a contradiction. Could you help put that
I'm
balance?
glad you asked because especially I don't want
Yeah.
anybody to take me out of context. I was referring to the generation before us. So there's a
Okay.
generation before us that they're in their 40s, they're in 50s right now, 50s and 60s right now, who basically came into the US, not knowing like what to do. Some of them have taken routes that maybe they're not super proud of. Some of them have taken
Yeah.
years to make a lot of, some of them made a lot of mistakes. And now they finally made it. Like they're finally getting through with it. You can't compare how they would describe themselves as, compared to someone who came in with an EB1 green card, who came
Yeah.
in like, 10, 12 years ago on the platform of what is dubbed as the Einstein visa, or somebody who
Yeah.
came as a student, finished their MBA, got into Microsoft. You won't compare them. So there's a generation that's maintaining low profile because that's what is required of them. They don't want to like get into bigger tax liabilities. They don't want like people to know their net worth. Some
Yeah.
of some of them are not even sure how to manage expectations from home and things like that. But our own generation is slightly different, right?
Yeah.
Forbes is going to pick you up before you know it. People can check your Wikipedia and see what you do and what you are worth. Just off of how much you've raised for your company, determine
Yeah.
what you are worth. So there's really no so much place to hide. So that's the difference between the two generations that I'm trying to compare.
Oh, okay. All right. Thank you so much. So, I like to ask my guests because I'm talking about different locations. I believe that there are things that distinguish these locations from each other. So, I would want you to talk in terms of the US now. How is the US? What would be the culture shock for somebody who is relocating from Nigeria to the US that you think anybody who is looking to should prepare their minds towards?
Well, I would say that, like you said, any of these differences I would identify doesn't mean one place is better than the other. But I would say
Yeah.
that one of the things I found out is that sense of design and colors isn't the same, between the US and Nigeria. And that's something that many people may not be familiar with. But if you pick a
Yeah.
UX designer or a UI UX designer that is building for a Nigerian brand or for Nigerian or European brands compared to America, Americans will sort of they would try to be a little more minimalistic, or
Minimally, yeah.
sort of like, oh, this is not really like, they'll say this is not professional enough, and what they're actually looking for is like block colors and things like that,
Yeah.
that are just primary colors and all of that. I think that's one thing that was an interesting culture shock. Also, like legal agreements are not the same across borders because obviously the
Yeah.
legal framework is different. You would see similarities between the Nigerian law and the UK law because they colonized us, but it's slightly different in the way it runs in America. I mean, spellings, pronunciations, accents,
Yeah.
all of that can be identified here. Because you're coming also against like a culture that is as aggressive as where you're coming from. That's America and Nigeria.
Yeah.
You would have to take it easy because every time you speak, they might tell you that you're shouting or that can you be a little more gentle, but you have to like, be able to manage all of that. I think also, um, what other thing would I say is a major culture shock that I saw? Uh, yeah, if they don't tell you, like summers are different from like how they are, in Nigeria is summer, literally summer all year round, so summer here
Yeah.
in the US is quite different. It gets dark, it gets dark later in the night, it gets bright very early in the morning, and then it gives them a lot longer time to be able to do outdoor activities and things like that.
Yeah.
The economy doesn't really sleep, so people work shifts a lot and work all night, all day. So that could be a shock for anybody who hasn't maybe even traveled to any other country. I think the other peculiarities of this place is that the way money works is different than in Nigeria. Things are not as instant as you would imagine in a developed country. Like, this is a developed country now. Somebody can send you a check and it takes 3 days to clear. You can pay your rent and it won't leave your account for another 3 days. You're like, "Ah, please, people should remove this money now.
Wow.
I want to know what I have and what I do."
Yeah.
You might be spending money and your card is still going through, and you won't know you've already overdrafted your cards. The credit system is very interesting. It's a positive shock in that you can get here and in 2 3 months you can get a $5,000 Amex card if you know what you're doing. And you'll be like, wow, somebody just trusted me with $5,000 credit. So that's part of what I think some of my friends, my siblings, my friends, we talked about. We're like, even the country that I was born, nobody can trust me with $5,000 just like imagine, imagine if there's a big business. Some other people also take it for granted and then they spend it
Yeah.
anyhow and then there's problem along the line because nobody's giving you that credit for free. It's not free money,
Sure.
but
Sure.
knowing that as an entrepreneur, that could make a difference between you starting an idea and not starting at all. So that's part of it. As a young person, you don't have to save for 20 years before you can buy a house because you know that, okay, there's credit available for you to be able to do that and you can still live in a great environment. So I think those are some of the things, but some of those other shocks they're super positive. Good morning, good afternoon is not really mostly in the US. Like some people will say, that may be wrong, but in most places it's hello, hi, unlike the way it would be in the United Kingdom. And I'm not talking about just even in some formal environments, like you're like, good afternoon, they already know you're not from here, and things like
Yeah.
that. So there's some differences in that. If you're on the line or in the queue, there's some difference there. Like I'm on the
Yeah.
queue, it's like okay, the queue to go where like and things like that. I once told a fuel pump attendant that I was trying to pay for gas and trying to point for which vehicle I'm trying to pay for, and like lemon. I said a lemon color or something like that. I was like, or maybe I said a lime color. I don't even remember which one now, but like there's some
Yeah.
difference like that. And some people try to make a big deal out of it instead of them to just realize that okay, maybe you're visiting or something like that. They try to make a big deal out of it, and sometimes
Yeah.
it's too unsettling for someone who is new. But like I always say, it takes some time, but eventually you figure it out. It's gas, not
Yeah.
petrol,
True.
gas, not fuel, and all of that. Meanwhile, gas is something else back home. So these are like
Yeah.
just some of the few things that I think, were a little interesting when I first got here.
Interesting. Thank you so much. A few more questions before we wrap up the session. What would you say that are like the common mistakes that a lot of Nigerians make when they just relocate to the US?
Well, there will be quite a number of like some do's and don'ts. But I think one of them is if you get in relationship with the wrong people, like that's going to determine how quickly you're going to succeed. So what you should try to do is think about where you're coming from. Don't just so the biggest problem is when you get to a new country, especially like the US, you look for anybody black, typically anybody that speaks your language. You forget that even where you're coming from at home, you don't associate with just anybody. People
Everybody,
forget
yeah.
that. So when you find somebody of your color that speaks your language, you're like, okay, yes, this is a Nigerian. That Nigerian may not be the kind of Nigerian you're supposed to be associating with. So this is a
Yeah.
blatant truth here. Remember, try to find out whether they have similar background as you, whether they have similar insight as you, similar values as you. You might see somebody
Yes.
that because they're black, you say, okay, they should take you in, or you want to be their roommate, and you find out that, well, this person is a thief, or believes in fraud, or believes in cutting corners, and this is not your vibe. You want to quickly determine who your vibe is. I know there's the fewer options, but you want to quickly find out if this is not the type of church you go when you're back home. Then don't go there because that's the only church. If this is not the kind of gathering you will be when you're back home, then don't go there if it doesn't inspire you, if it doesn't take you to the next level. So avoid people like that. Avoid naysayers who tell you, in this country you can't be this, or you have to wait 10 years before you can achieve this. That's not true. They think they have the formula, but they don't. So instead, think about those that are inspiring, who have done great stuff, and find them. Go to where they are. 1 hour, 2 hours spent with them can mean like several months of avoiding mistakes or progressing. So I think that's one thing that I think people do that is a big mistake. They just associate with anybody. And the direct extreme opposite of what I just said is people now advising that you should avoid Nigerians. That's a big, big mistake too. Don't avoid Nigerians. If there is a chance you will get the biggest amount of support from somebody who you came from the same country. I tell you this truth.
Yes.
So it's just about finding the ones that are directly in alignment. So don't be on the two extremes of, looking for every Nigerian. Like my mentor would say, you left over 200 million of them at home. So you can't be looking for every Nigerian. But also don't
Yeah.
avoid every Nigerian, because when you do, you will avoid the ones that have insight, that have wisdom, that have been opportune to cross the same hurdles you're trying to cross before. So there must be a balance there. I think the other mistake people make is that they forget to assimilate into the system and find out, how does money work here? How does credit work here? How do opportunities work here? What must I do to be able to get started? People also forget that when you have new friends here, the relationship is like this thing. You've forgotten that you
Mm.
spent 8, 9, 10, 15 years building that very close friendship you have from home. So you think you can
Yeah.
achieve and make demand on the same level of thinness of relationship.
Mm.
You have to build that relationship to. There's somebody you like, there are people you have affinity for, build that relationship. You have to spend multiple
Mm.
Christmases, multiple Easters, multiple days
Mm.
together to really be able to be sure
Yeah.
there is a cement in that relationship. So people make that mistake and just say, "Oh, this person hurt me. This person did this person just met you 6 months ago." Like, they're not the
Yeah.
friend that you thought they were. I
Mm.
think those are some, and I still know this even from personal experiences. From a
Yeah.
professional standpoint, don't just run everywhere and tell you that, oh, this is the new thing you should go and do. Oh, nurses, oh, jettison everything you are doing, go and become a nurse. Oh, drop everything you are
Mm.
doing, go and do cybersecurity. No. Find somebody within your field, that field you came with, who is
Mm.
outstanding in America. You will be
Yeah.
shocked what they will tell you. They will never tell you
Mm.
don't come into this career. They will show you how they became the top accountant, top CPA. So
Mm.
why should you come here with an accounting degree and then go and do nursing, or go and
Awesome.
do, if that has been your lifelong dream and ambition. Maybe it was jam that didn't let you do nursing when you were in Nigeria. It's totally
Yeah.
okay, but don't do it just because people said that's where the money is. So you might end up coming
Mm.
back with frustration because you don't have a passion for it. If you're coming
Mm.
from a bank, like, why don't you think about what is adjacent to a banking career, or join a
Mm.
fintech in America, or join a top bank and become VP as well. Not that you bring
Yeah.
15 years of experience from, Keystone Bank or from Providus or from GT Bank, and just throw that down the drain and let somebody go and tell you to do something else at 45. When
Mm.
you should be like seeing yourself as an industry leader, pick up one or two certifications, take some
Yes.
tutelage for maybe 2 or 3 years, maybe as something that is a little lower than where you are coming from. Pick yourself back up again and re-strategize what
Mm.
your resume should be, and start applying for senior leadership roles, because now you have a combination of both. So it requires a lot of thinking and working with other people, but these are some of the things I think people should avoid, and what they should maybe take on as a strategy.
Amazing. How relevant is the Nigerian certificates over there in the US? Is it
I'm
such
gonna
that when you come there, you have to retake some courses just to be able to blend into their
Yeah, I'm
system?
gonna I'm gonna bust your bubble. The first thing is, it is highly relevant. It is a
Wow.
highly relevant certificate. If you have a degree
Mm.
from Nigeria, all you need to do is to convert your degree to the US equivalent using credential evaluation platforms. Vesti can help
Okay.
you with that. You convert your
Mm.
degree to the US equivalent. That's it. If you have an MBA from Nigeria, though, you don't need to go and take another MBA here. People say, well, I want to do it for the network, I want to do it for, well, if you have the resources, that's fine. But you're not doing it because the MBA from Nigeria is useless. No, you're not. If you do a computer science degree from Nigeria, just take on the masters or the PhD that goes after it. So it is very, very relevant. Now, about taking certificates or certification,
Yeah.
regardless of where you are, even if you were in Nigeria, people are not just used to continuous learning. You
Yeah.
must take on new certifications. So I
Mm.
don't see it as something that happened because you came to the US. There are some
Mm.
professions, however, that require this kind of conversions, like law, where you actually have to take on maybe
Yeah.
write a law school exam, do all of that. Medicine, where you have to do some exams like, I think PAB for the UK, and then NCLEX
Mm.
for the US as a nurse, and the US also has this other medical exam for doctors. So there
Okay.
are there are things you have to do with that. But think about it: if you are becoming a consultant in Saudi, it's the same thing. If you're being a consultant in
Yeah.
another country, it's almost the same thing. You have to convert.
Mm.
But that did not make your prerequisite degree useless. It didn't make it
Useless. Yeah.
useless at all. If anything, we actually study a lot more theory, which is also very valuable than most countries around the world. And it's when you
Yes.
get into the field that people will see that, you're actually a generalist. Here in
Mm.
the US, they try to make you a specialist, in
Okay.
most fields, because it's a very developed country. So as a result,
Mm.
I mean, needless to say, but as a
Yeah.
result, it requires you to like be like a surgical person, a very specialist person. So one of the things I must mention is your Nigerian resume is most likely not going to work here. You want to think
Okay.
about, like, yes, we like 8 page, 9 page, 10 page resume, especially when you are senior.
Yeah.
Here, you turn it to a 2 page resume, no matter how senior you are, except they're asking for like other things. Maybe you're trying to get a government position or you're
Yeah.
CEO of a company that is, I don't know, maybe public and they want to see many more things on your profile. But typically, your resume, the US philosophy is that it should be able to fit in 2 pages, and you don't want to show divergence. Versatility and divergence is what Nigerians like to show because the opportunities are
Yeah.
so employers are looking for people that can do 9 things. Here, employers are looking for people that can do one over five, not even 9 things. One over five
Mm.
things, but do it deep. So they're looking for depth. They're looking for depth rather. They're looking for depth, and they're looking for being a specialist, being like so. If you know 10 programming languages, that is not the time to include all 10 programming languages for a Python developer role. You want to make sure that
Yeah.
you show how good you are with technologies that are in Python and how deep you are with that. That's an example and you can apply it to other industries as well. So yes, certificate is not useless, but continuous development, converting, those are things that are necessary.
Wow, thank you so much. We get a lot of misconceptions, and which is one of the reasons why we are having this series because sometimes we sit in our houses and just assume we know so much about those countries, and until you get there, you wouldn't even understand the reality of those things and what is applicable. Which is why we are bringing people in these locations to just share with with everyone that is following my channel. And I want to really thank you because you have really, if we should pay for this, I mean, for the things you've given to us as information today, I'm sure by now we'll all be very bankrupt. So thank you. You're not holding back anything. And this means a lot for us here. And I believe that somebody who is watching this session or who is going to watch this session eventually will have a lot of clarity if they're deciding to go to the US. I may even be deciding that I don't think I want to go to the US with these things I'm hearing. I don't want to be on my toes all the time if this is a society that needs me to be on my toe. So thank you so much for sharing. And I like to wrap up my sessions by asking one last question, and which would be if you were to go back in time when you first moved to the US, what would you have done differently?
Well, I'm always grateful. So, benefit of hindsight, I'm always grateful for all the steps I took because ultimately that's what led me here. But maybe if I would say what I would have done quicker in terms of being
Yeah.
quick, like I would have maybe gotten my startup started like earlier than I did, even though I came here with one startup to build. I'll
Okay.
have sought the venture out really quickly. There are mentors that I have today that maybe I will have gravitated to them a little earlier. Um, yeah, but quite frankly, I wouldn't have it differently. I'm grateful for like even the mistakes that I made because they
Yeah.
give me the benefit of being able to guide other people today. So I'm not one giving to like looking back and say, okay, this is what I'd have done better.
Yeah.
I'm always thinking about what I can do today. How I must live all my greatest ideals. Like for anybody watching, if you're like challenged by America or intimidated by America, I want to tell you that for real, your ultimate, measure of success in life is that you live to your true potential. There's any
Yes.
way, if there's any country that can help you to live that true potential, I think it's the United States of America. So I think that should be all our options. Why do I want to be lazy? Why do I want to be laid back? Why don't I want to live my greatest ideals, and just fulfill my potential and die empty, and finish everything that God has made for me to do. So yeah, in benefit of hindsight, I'm grateful for everything, including mistakes that I made, and just want to see maybe what more I can continue to do to fulfill my goals since my journey is unique.
Yeah, amazing. My last guest, I said something to him, and it's looking like that is also applicable here. The last session was on, we're talking about Norway, and I said to him that at that point, when we're done with the session, that Norway needs to make him an ambassador because he really sold Norway. He sold Norway as a great place to be, and I think I'm going to be saying the same thing to you. At this point, US need to make you an ambassador because somebody who wasn't thinking about the US, I mean, from the way you've talked about it, is enough reason for the person to want to go to the US. I know I had said that the question I asked was the last, but I realized that I skipped a very important question that I would want you to please touch on, and that is on the various routes that people can come into the US. Could you just give us like quickly how different ways people can come into the US if they decide to come to the US.
Let me start by asking that if you have a phone and you have the Android or iOS on your phone, please go ahead and download Vesti on the Vesti
Please
app store,
do.
the App Store. It's
Yeah.
VESTI app. Over a million people have downloaded it, so we are hoping that
Yes.
more people download it. I have a goal this year to hit 3 million in downloads, so please help us make it happen.
It's we.
But beyond that, there's a current route to the US right now called the US H-1B visa. There are two visas I categorize as the US Golden Visa, even though the US government hasn't called it that, but they are the H-1B visa and the O-1 visa. The H-1B, because if you see it, it's a lottery. So essentially, your life can change overnight. And the requirement is a bachelor's degree. And for the first
Okay.
time in like so many years of running this visa, they have actually just changed it to entrepreneur rule, meaning that they're looking for it to be the path that entrepreneurs move to America. And when they say entrepreneurs, they're talking about everybody: finance, education,
Yeah.
tech, fashion and design, logistics, food and supplies, consumables, fast moving commodity goods. So if you're in any of those fields, we incorporate a business for you, get you your tax ID, and then put you in the lottery. And God help you, you're choosing, you can move as soon as that September. Imagine they run a
Wow.
lottery in March, the result comes out in April, and by September, you're in America with your family. Only one person
Wow.
needs to get into the lottery, but it covers the family. If two of you in the family enter, it also increases your chances of getting selected because now you have two entries. The O1 visa is the second one. Is the 3 year work for people with extraordinary ability. So now that the US has reduced the validity of B1, B2, these
Yeah.
two are the I was
Okay.
talking about the O1 visa. So it's a 3 year visa for
Yeah.
exceptional people with exceptional ability, and don't let that one bamboozle you. It's basically a set of 7 criteria that if you meet three out of it, evidence of high salary, evidence of receiving awards, evidence of publishing articles in major media, evidence of judging the work of others, and so on and so forth like that. So some of you already
Okay.
met up with that without knowing if you've supervised candidates or you have judged other people's work, you forwarded a book or you have edited a journal, it's like that, So many people don't know they are qualified until they take a quiz. So what I always say is that I can't talk about all the routes, but I will tell you today that
Yes.
go take a quiz test at university.com. Computer now. So
Okay.
if you can type this for people to see on your
All right.
screen, that would be helpful. It's just wevested.com/quiz. And that basically leads you to a place where you can take a quiz that shows you which route you're eligible for based on your education background, your budget, and all kind of things like that. And it's a free test. So go take it, and then our team will be in touch with you if you're thinking about moving to America. But Magdalene, this has been a fantastic session. You didn't tell me that it was a series.
Thank
I
you
am
so
so,
much.
so proud. I'm so happy that somebody is doing that. Like you're talking Norway, touching
Thank
this, touching
you.
that, all of it.
Thank you.
This is
Thank
amazing.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well done.
Yes. Thank you so much. Thank you. Just to confirm the address you just mentioned, is it vesty.com/quiz? Is there something before the vesty?
Wevesty, W-E,
We vesty.
Wevesty, that's
Okay.
WEVESTI.com/quiz.
Okay. All right. Then we have somebody who is trying to confirm what you said about H1B. I don't know. H1B, is it a lottery
It's one
route?
lottery, yeah, that's the lottery route.
Okay, okay. I'm sure the person would get what she's
Absolutely.
trying to clarify. All right, thank you
Absolutely.
so much, Mr. Shola. I was not expecting anything less than what we had, and you did not disappoint. In
My
fact,
pleasure.
just to put this out there, when you eventually responded to me, I was calling everybody I could call, like, oh my God, Mr. Shola finally responded.
My
Because I
pleasure.
know with you it's going to be a lot of value, and I'm glad that we have the opportunity to get all of this value for free, especially, and I don't take it for granted. Thank you so much. I'm also going to put in my description for those who are looking to reach out to you how they can, get in touch with Vesti. And for anybody who is just joining now, I need you to understand that Vesti is one way you need to, in fact, is the way you need to get to the US. If you need all the information you need to get to the US, please, Vesti will give it to you as much as possible. And Vesti is not, you're not paying what you would pay for a proof of fund to get information from Vesti. You know, I believe that even though Vesti is a business, Vesti is also out there to help people, as many people as possible, to get to the US. And I would encourage you to please leverage on that opportunity and make the most of it. Thank you for everyone who had stayed from the beginning of the session till now, who did not mind the whole issues that we had with network, with phones, and all that. We are
Appreciate it.
grateful. Yes, if you haven't subscribed to this channel, please do. In this channel, we talk everything personal development. We share information that can help you become a better person and to also help you do better in life generally. Thank you once again, Mr. Shola. It's been a pleasure having this session with you. And I do
My,
hope that in the future time, we have more collaborations in the future. Thank you so much.
my pleasure. Have a wonderful time. Thanks,
And
everybody.
you too.
Have
Yeah.
a
Bye,
good
everyone. Till we see you in
one.
our next session next week. Bye.